Ango is a form that we use. It's traditional, goes back in ancient Japan and the Soto lineage to sit for a long period of time. In our situation, we've modified it a little bit to be the whole month of February. This is our third year of doing the whole month of February, 28 days or 29 days, where we do nothing but sit for 8 hours a day for that full time, 4 hours in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening, and do very little, if any, sutra chanting. We just concentrate on Shikan Zazen. I invite everyone to come and do this together. It's important to do this to train your mind, and you may need the support of Sangha. Sangha may need the support of your presence. So please do that. And thank you for coming to this Sunday Dharma talk, which we've been having every Sunday for a long time. This morning's Dharma talk title is Ignorance. Ignorance works. Ignorance works. Ignorance, it works. It's one of the three poisons: passion, grasping; aggression, pushing away; and ignorance, which it works. The other two work too. They also work, but it's more obvious the way in which they're working. It's very obvious that you're grasping at something. It might take you a few decades to realize you're grabbing onto things. Without the permission of the things, you're just doing it because of greed. It might be a very low level of greed where you don't really know that you're grasping. You might justify it with a bunch of other phrase fillers in there in ego that keep you protected from being ashamed of yourself. One of them would be what? Pride. Pride keeps you from being ashamed. And that shame keeps you from being prideful. Another teeter-totter of the mind. Aggression is obvious when you're pushing out, rejecting, shoving away, getting revenge, giving someone their just desserts for what they said, did, how they treated you. You might do it out in the open, in front of them, to them. You might just be doing it constantly, every few 3 or 4 hours in your mind, rehearsing stories, going over and over and over. What they said, what they did, how you hate them or dislike them. Or you may even be in an area where you're trying to understand why they would be so mean to you or cruel. And you may fill that in with a bunch of explanations based on relative truth, which can be very relatively accurate, but they actually block you from seeing your true nature. They block you from continuing on, if there is a continuance, on the spiritual path of seeing the truth for yourself. Ignorance, the third one, works more totally, more completely, more. Because it's such a shutdown. It's such a, you distract yourself into something else. You're not aware, you're not seeing that you're pushing on something, you're not aware that you're dragging something in or making up things or inventing stories about this and that. It just works. You just don't look at it anymore. You just look away. That ignorance may show up as a deliberate turning away. It may show up as grasping at another form, a very subtle grasping at something that's totally harmful. Totally harmless, totally neutral, passion, aggression, and ignorance, again, going up in all these forms. Please be aware of this. Be aware of this beyond the personhood that's pushing, pulling, and shutting down. Beyond that. But first you have to see the personhood. You have to see that you want this and you don't want that, and you want to obstruct this, and you'll use everything in your world to help you continue being a solid person who's been wrong, a solid person who's getting ahead and who's better than others, and a solid person who's not interested in anything, just shut off. And one of the distractions might be something as simple as going to college. Totally justified. Society is totally promoting that, but your motivation for going to college may be a hidden form where you're actually using that to avoid everything else. I went in the Marine Corps because I could not stand unknowing that showed up when I got out of high school. I could not handle that. So I needed a form. I was going to lose all the forms I had to keep this crazy person in some kind of a container. So I went in the Marine Corps. It helped because I had a strong container. Read the Uniform Code of Military Justice if you got time, and you'll see. You better follow those forms. And of course, those forms are being used all over the place to control people, not just to protect our country and so on. Another form of ignorance, distraction into this, distraction into that. Sometimes we might even get married in order to distract ourselves from just being alone. Get into a relationship because we don't really want to be alone in our kitchen just eating food by ourselves. We want company so that we can what? Make small talk back and forth and further the illusion of separation, of otherness, of being a personhood in the midst of this very difficult teaching of the First Noble Truth. Life is suffering. This will not go away. I don't care if you attain Anusra Samyak Sambodhi. If you have some kind of idea that suffering is going to be diminished because of that, you have a big surprise coming. It will not go away. Nothing happens. To quote the 16th Karmapa, Rangjung Rikpe Dorje, something he said in 1981 while he was still alive. Barely. You can do this yourself. You can see it yourself. You have to observe what arises so you can see the pushing, observe what arises so that you can see the pulling, and observe what arises so you eventually get very subtle indicators that something is shutting out, shutting off, shutting down. These can show up. One of the teachings that I talk about is called phrase fillers, where you say something and then before you say it, you have a lead in or a leader or a preamble to something that helps you cover up the openness that you're about to dive into with your statement. And then there's the one that brings up the tail end. Instead of just having the open space of having said something, you might say, so one of my common ones that I use quite often is, do you follow me? Anybody that's listened to me very much will recognize that. I also recognize it. And I don't change it to improve, to try to be someone who has no phrase fillers. If you understand this, this is very important. I don't know if you can understand this without a strong sitting practice. It's not just a bunch of concepts. I'm using concepts, but all that understanding, any conceptual thing that you feel is valuable to you, has come out of what? Sitting practice of meditation. Sit down, hold still, sit symmetrical. Return to stillness. Return to silence. Don't maintain anything. Sit there, and then if you need to get up and move around, go do that.
Hi.
Don't follow it with some kind of a story or explanation or judgment. But if you do follow it with a story or an explanation or a judgment, then receive that. Receive everything that shows up as a form, whether it's out there in the apparent out there-ness, or whether it's on the inside, so to speak, in the insideness. Those are not two different things. They just look like it. I pray for you that you'll see this without hurting others and then without hurting yourself. I pray for you, and I don't pray for much, but I pray for you. I want you to see this. I want you to see that everything you look at is you, not some kind of cartoon version of some conclusion in Donald Duck. Although it's not separate from that, it may take on a really silly form also. You can see this yourself. The part that I emphasize the most is hold still, observe. Don't add, subtract, or divide. But if you do add, subtract, or divide, add passion, subtract aggression, and divide ignorance, divide yourself away from some things, distance yourself. Just be aware of it, because as you do that, if you do it without stopping it, if you can watch your phrase fillers, if you can watch your ignorance, your self-satisfied personhood, always getting a credit here and blame over there, if you can just watch that, the consciousness that has never been in prison what relative way of talking about, is liberated, because you actually, uh, you're no longer a person. You never were. You don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to think about anything. Everything becomes obvious, apparent, without space and without time. If you agree, that's not the point. If you disagree, that's not the point. If you ignore, that's not the point. Be aware of what's happening. Your particular liberation, if that comes about, will not, you'll not have there'd be nothing to compare. There's no pattern. Oh, am I doing it this way? Am I living up to this? It's taught that way everywhere, because we have to have some kind of a path, have to have some kind of stair steps. We need some kind of a map. But the way you awaken, there's no otherness. And why is there no otherness? There isn't anyone else. It's an illusion that is extremely convincing and real. You can see this. If you do see this, it won't necessarily that you'll feel like we're all one. No, you will be even more of an individual, even more completely yourself. You will not look for approval from anyone. There isn't anyone. You will not join in some kind of a clannish behavior where everybody's functioning as one consciousness. No. Now, if you return to when you pass away, if you go back into the ultimate nature, then there isn't any positionality, no personhood, no movement, nothing happens. But don't believe that. Don't believe that. It's not something I'm particularly trying to get you to consider, think about. But looking at this illusion, to see what this is, to see that you're consciousness only, you still are the complete individual with all the karma that brought you into this space. You are that. And finally, after all this time, trying to find out what to do. So hard, isn't it? Hard. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? What are they doing? Why should I talk to him? Why should I? Why should I? Why? And then it becomes what? What is this? What is this? When you say, what is this, instead of why, instead of going in a circle of because, you begin to see which one of those three poisons is functioning with the most strength in your particular personality, your karma, the causes and conditions that have been bringing you back into consciousness, back into a physical form, lifetime after lifetime. Nothing happens. Even the lifetime after lifetime after lifetime is also an illusion. You can't prove there ever was such a thing. If you do, then that's just more relative truth. Nothing lasts, nothing continues, and nothing repeats itself. I'm not thinking about this before I say it. I'm looking. And this is available for you. You can do this. This can be extremely threatening. This can be so threatening that you can get close to it and it just gets too terrifying. I'm speaking out of what I've been looking at for a long, long time. It gets too terrifying. We need to do something else with this. But you don't. You can actually just look at it. Just sit down, hold still. You don't ever have to talk to me. You don't ever have to be a monk or enter a monastery or something. Find a space in your own house, return to the silence, return to the stillness, and just observe what continues to make noise and what continues to move. If you can do that, there's no guarantee, but at least you won't be continuing to promote more karma. There's the kind of karma that shows up in your life. There's the kind of karma that you add on to it. I think it's prarabdha and sanchita, according to the Sanskrit words, language. But it's that which shows up. It's like weather in your mind. It's like the shape of your ears, the color of your skin. It just shows up. You didn't do it. But then you add on, subtract, divide, push, pull, passion, aggression, ignorance, over and over to try to prevent the very thing that is trying to show up. You can actually come into this world and be a complete living Buddha. You won't know it because there's nothing else to know. And you may not even be recognized. You may just be an ordinary person working at Walmart. There is a Walmart. Consciousness only. This is possible. As I've said before, recently, it's unlikely, because there are billions of people, this is unlikely this will occur in that, with that large amount of people, but it's possible if you're listening to me, not because I'm a special person, more because I'm nobody. I'm not any person. I'm not even important enough to even take to court and accuse of a bunch of horrible things. Or maybe I am. Maybe I'll get really popular. Not important. I'm not here to please you, satisfy you, convince you, magnetize you, or anything. I only have one thing I'm interested in doing. And that's presenting to someone who shows up and says, what should I do? What is this? What's this about? Can you help me? I would say, train your mind and then ask questions about it. And I will endeavor to meet you in the crap that you're dealing with, which is unlike anybody else's crap. That's why it's so confusing. We talk to another person. Well, what have you been? Well, I do this. Well, what's happened when you do that? This happens. Well, that doesn't happen to me. Or else, that's just, we think alike. It's just, the constant togetherness and separation and ignorance that is happening everywhere. You can see this. If you have questions, I'd be happy to respond to them. Go ahead.
You, Devine. So with ignorance, is it still ignorance if you are consciously distracting yourself from pain? Or
A little bit, somewhat. There's a differentiation there. So like taking ibuprofen or something, or deliberately doing something so you won't be, but there's not a problem with that. As I've said many times, and I'll say again, and other people have said, it's not about changing and improving and getting better. It's about seeing what it is. It's about consciousness. And then you may have to be aware of that distraction for a long time before, and again, no guarantee, before that will just start to come apart, because the truth cannot hide out in an illusion unless the illusion is perpetuated or stirred up, unless we keep stirring up the commotion. Pardon me. Is that loud enough? Wake everybody up.
your Devine, does that mean that in awakening or realization that you're able to stay with pain, or that pain and pleasure alike are ornaments, which it is pleasant to wear? And
As it has been said, ornaments that is pleasant to wear. That it's hard to say what that is relatively. If I were to say it relatively, I would just that they're just feelings and emotions that arise and fall. So you haven't depersonalized them. The idea isn't to depersonalize that where you can't tell the difference between pain and pleasure. It's to see that they are something that is arising on your nerve endings, whether it's the physical ones, or whether it's the nerve endings that are invisible, that are in the mind stream, that cause anxiety, cause fear, cause grief. There's no causation as far as the nerve ending, but it's a similar kind of extension of consciousness from the physical form, the Nirmanakaya, up into ultimate understanding or ultimate situation we sometimes call space. So just be aware of that. And that way, the consciousness that is in most people is trapped by the form, trying to stop the pain, trying to get more pleasure, trapped by passion and aggression, and subdued or promoted or advanced or shut down in terms of ignorance to stop one and start the other, depending on how one feels. More?
You said not to depersonalize, but does depersonalization happen eventually?
The way it happens is you look at how personal you're taking everything, but don't change it. Don't give yourself mini lectures. I shouldn't take things so personally. We're constantly being told that by our own mind and by others. You shouldn't take some things so personally. And what do I say? Take it personally, but be aware of it. Because if you try to shut it out, don't think things so personally, then it rotates into another dynamic, another level of consciousness, where the fourth consciousness is operating in terms of structures and forms, and we start to think about, analyze, judge, and then we find somebody who caused it. Be responsible for what's happening. There isn't anything that has happened that isn't you. And who are you? Consciousness. have a temporarily showing up as this person, that person, this person. Right now, you're this particular person. But it's been said that Zen teachers down through history have been trying to speak about this in different ways, like um, uh, I listen and you hear, or um, I speak and you make a sound. The kind of things of trying to show that things are not separate by using very obvious um, statements about the nature of relative truth. It shows that things using relative truth. Want another one, more ridiculous one? You don't, huh? You're afraid of it? Yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to give permission to somebody to teach you. You ready? Non an ultimate teaching spoken in a relative way. I eat pinto beans and you have gas. How's that?
Good.
I'll do anything to help you, including make a fool of myself. I want you to see what this is. That's what I want. I want to, you look different, but I know that you're the same. And as long as you think you're different, then, and you give me permission, I'm going to continue to address you as long as there's a voice, as long as there's a body-mind complex that is operating as an apparent separation. Go ahead, sir.
Kabowing, what is it to be more of an individual when we see that your ignorance? Bowing.
More of an individual. Just pride is an example. I'm not sure if what you're asking about, but pride or a kind of self-centeredness that is convinced that one is better, or is that where you're going?
Kabowing, you went through a whole bunch of mores, and at the end of the mores, you said you may become more of an individual, something like that.
You may become more self-centered, more promoting yourself. We have examples in our community of people who have just become more. They're working on it. There's nobody, not blaming anyone, but it's pretty good examples of people who I'm not asking anybody to do anything except sit here, look at the wall. I don't even ask for money. I mean, occasionally, can you help me? But not much. But sitting here and looking at the wall is going to introduce you to parts of aspects in consciousness where you are shut down, shut off, turned away. And it might just become too difficult. And if it becomes too difficult and you see what it's about, then you may be inspired to continue anyway, do it anyway. Or you may buy into a story about it and suddenly, well, I've got to move to California because my cousin's in trouble. And I really need to dedicate my life to others, and he's in trouble. So, and it works. It gets you away from here. Or you see someone here that's suffering because they're having difficulty with a teacher. They're having a great difficulty, and you decide that you can align yourself with that and use their difficulty to leave. Been watching it for years. All kinds of. There's not a single one of those that looks like the other one. They're all so different. It's like, read every Russian novel that was written. They're all Russian novels, so they're similar, but they're not the same. Or read all of the stories of Henry Miller, all similar, but not the same. Or read every poem of Pablo Neruda, very similar. You can kind of tell it's him, but they're so different. You could say that with anything. You could say it with anything. Food is another example. Every time you make a Cobb salad, it's different. May taste good, may taste like Caesar salad because you made a mistake. I'm just talking a little bit in a light way about just the differentiation. It's so incredible. It's about watching it, not about controlling it. But you may need to come into the meditation hall, hold still, sit down, sit symmetrical, and endeavor to just watch the movement of the mind. So it comes back to that final situation or beginning situation of just watch them, sit still, be quiet, watch what moves in the mind, watch the body move, watch the birds fly past the doorway, window, observe. Yes, sir.
Yoka bowing, what does the ego do with that differentiation? Bowing,
Uses it as a story to promote itself, protect itself, advance itself, himself, herself, themselves. Uses the story. The story, you're not separate from the story. If it looks like it's over there, then you can use it as it's called materialism. Spiritual materialism, material materialism, psychological materialism.
yoka bowing, when we see that we're stepping on those stair steps, the ego is differentiating or grabbing
Yes.
onto. What is our next step as a practitioner of Buddhism?
I'll use the word you use. What is our next step? Just observe. Don't correct it. Don't fix it. Don't. But even though I'm saying that, said it 3 times. If you continue to do it, then just be aware of that. The causes and conditions are outside. It's like your digestive tract. You have no say-so about that. You have no say-so about your body temperature. Yeah, some people, yogis of ancient times, would try to get control of that and then show off. And people would be really impressed because they could go without breathing for 20 minutes or something, or wow, must be enlightened. More about that if you have it. This is the miracle. You don't have to invent something. This is the miracle. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yoka bowing, I was just kind of gonna ask about that, about the magic. What does the magic cover up, bowing?
Do you think magic covers things up? What else do you think? What do you want to know? You're asking me a question and I hear the question and it's an interesting question, but what is it you fundamentally want to know? And then we'll go to that. We might get closer to what it is that would be helpful to you.
Yoka bowing, it looks like there's some kind of enamoration I'm grabbing onto. Are you saying not to get rid of that?
Well, unless you need an enamorostomy. You need some kind of spiritual surgery. What do you want to know? Isn't that funny what I said? Seriously, past the funniness or whatever it was. What do you want to know? That's a good question area. Magic.
What is the difficulty that happens when it seems like the magic has gone away?
That is the magic. That things can come and go, and yet nothing is happening. If you see nothing is happening, then the magic is the illusion. It comes and it goes. It's an astonishing. You won't need to watch any kind of entertainment. You'll see that the situation you're in is never boring, nor is it entertaining. It's beyond that. It's consciousness only. More?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Further questions in here? Yes. Kandama.
Kandama bowing. What is the power of receiving?
So receiving is a word I use a lot in the teaching, which I assume you're addressing that. It's because only by receiving will allow the consciousness to not be completely embroiled in the otherness of passion, aggression, ignorance, pushing and pulling, preferences. I like this, I don't, I should, I shouldn't. And if you just can receive, eventually receiving, if you can do it over time, it takes practice, it takes training the mind to just receive no matter what. Receive what's showing up out here, your unfriendly relationships to some people and very friendly to others. Just receive that. Don't leave it for what it means. Don't leave it for, I don't like them, I need to stay away from them. But if you do, then receive that. So it's by doing sitting practice of meditation, zazen, shikantaza. I'm not saying you couldn't do this practicing uh, anapanasati or something. I was just talking to someone recently about that kind of practice, and you may need to do that. You may need to do creation completion practice. But the way I talk about it and the way it looks to me is you need to sit down and practice receiving, which is what chicken tao's is, sit symmetrical, whatever shows up, swallow, whatever shows up, listen, whatever shows up, think, whatever shows. And then if something shows up that you don't like and you push on it, then immediately turn that pushing instead of correcting the pushing, which creates a stronger ego person who's accomplishing something, recovering from something, being better, improving. Instead, you are working with it in such a way that the emphasis, without anything being emphasized, it isn't even an emphasis. It's just there's less of the belief in the illusion. And there's not a belief in consciousness particularly, but there's less of it because the emphasis is just receive. And this is all consciousness does. Consciousness does not produce anything. It just receives. And you could say, well, where do palm trees come from then? Isn't consciousness producing that? No, the illusion produces that. The palm tree is consciousness. It is that. No one told me this. I'm looking at it. But someone a long time ago told me how I could do this, how I could see my true nature. Have I seen my true nature? I have no idea. I don't need that kind of a fill in.
Padma bowing. What is happening when we are received? You can see our self-centeredness.
You can see my self-centeredness. It's on display all the time.
So what happens when we receive each other, when we're receiving what we're seeing in another person? What seems to be other?
It's just no warfare. You're just receiving it. So nothing actually happens. I mean, it's the illusion happens, but there's no leaving the illusion to stop it, leaving or changing the illusion. There's no picking and choosing going on there. Maybe some, but it's very, very low level, like time to eat or something like that. Go ahead.
Padma bowing. I'm thinking of what you can see in us that we're unaware of. So you can see what we're ignorant of. And you're receiving that. It seems like 99% of the time you don't say anything or don't point it out directly.
So what do you want to know about that?
What is happening when you're receiving that? Because you can see it.
No, nothing's happening, particularly.
Does that help
Nothing.
us see that what we're so ignorant of? I guess by putting ourselves in front of you.
This has been said many times in many ways, way before we all showed up on this situation. The teaching person and the spiritual tradition as non-dual or Advaita or consciousness only or mind only, Zen, Tibetan Buddhism, Buddhist practices, Advaita, as I think I already said, and also the even teachings before the Buddha showed up are basically saying the teacher can, if you come to the teacher and become a student, then the teacher can point to it using your mind, your activity, whatever you're saying and doing, whatever's happening in the environment, all the causes and conditions. The teaching person is that. They're separated from it in the illusion as a particular form. But if you're functioning as a form, you're functioning as a student, and you have to make it very definite, because if you're the sneakiness of the ego is to try to evaluate the teacher. Well, are they really a teacher? That's so individual. That is so dependent there is in Pratitya Samutpada on absolutely untraceable causes and conditions. The only way you can really know is just when I met my teacher, especially Trungpa Rinpoche, I just knew it, and it was terrifying. I had to study under him. I had to function that way. It was terrifying. I knew I was in for it. I was going to have to look at something I'd been able to shut out for the first 30 years of my life. So I'm not seeing, I don't read minds. There aren't any minds. There's just mind. And even that's chancy. just a concept about something more. If you have it, it's a good area to ask questions in.
Conjure bowing, what is the difference between being in front of the teacher or being in front of the wall?
Same thing. Same thing.
The teacher is receiving us, the wall.
Receiving you. Well, some walls, there's a few walls that are pretty obstinate.
So then the student is the common denominator in those two situations.
If I follow you, I would say yes, but I'm not sure I'm tracking. What I was getting at originally is that teacher can point to something. What's one of the traditional images? The teacher can even open the gate for you, but you have to walk through it. Dharma gate. Just like Padmasambhava said, the final Dharma gate is pride. It's one of the areas of consciousness, self-centered, that you just think you don't really have a thought that you're full of yourself. That pride can be a self-effacing pride, where you're projecting to everyone else that you just want to help them and you're just a kind person and you show up as being very, but under, just a few inches below the surface, there's this intense self-centeredness that is locked down on who you are and tends to promote your image as being a kind, loving, awakened person. You won't say awakened, of course. It shows up in quite a few places. I've met a few of those people. And I have to say, I'm not separate from those people. I am one of those people. Otherwise, I cannot teach this. I'm not like somehow better than the person that I'm describing. I'm not separate from them. Not separate from you. I'm not separate from the worst person we've ever thought about. And there's a few good examples out there we can all talk about on the news. I am that. You are that. No more war with anything. No more agreement. And no more ignorance, because ignorance will cover it up. Ignorance works. But sitting down and facing a wall, holding still, sitting in silence, stillness, as much as you can do the stillness, returning to the stillness. The ignorance starts to come apart. The ignoring, the wall of the mind just starts to diminish, not because you moved it, just because that what Padmasambhava was saying about the final Dharma gate being pride, you just look at it and it just starts to come apart. You can't get rid of pride. That's pride. That's self-effacing kind of approach to protecting the ego. Looking like you're kind, loving, and enlightened and wouldn't hurt a flea. More?
Conjure bowing, what your title is Ignorance Works. Is ignorance working for you?
Yes.
How?
It works when something's really bothering me, I can shut it out. I can turn away from it. But I'm not interested in correcting that. If you start to run into that, some teachers will get you to try to change how you're acting. Change it. And it's not wrong. Some people need that kind of a teaching maybe for the rest of this life, maybe for many lifetimes, maybe for 3 months. Maybe you need to go in and work with that for a while until they meet someone who actually points at what this is. And that's rare. Nothing special. That's why it's rare. More?
Conjure bowing, so the difference is that ignorance works for all of us. But some of us are at war with that ignorance.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. Once we get onto that, then we try to stop that, try to change it or manipulate it in some way. And if you realize your true nature, your whole agenda about everything just comes apart. You'll have no idea what you're going to do in the next 20 minutes because there is no 20 minutes. The time and space, the illusion of time is gone. There's just this. And even this is suspect because you're sitting every single moment in the illusion and have no idea what to do. And you're flooded with emotions and feelings and everything that these emotions and feelings can't find an identity. It's beyond personhood. It's just a consciousness, just still has the relative positionality of a physical form with kidneys and heart and still touching things. More?
Kind of about, for example, you've been pointing out small talk
Yes, we've talked about that. Small talk.
or lack of small talk. Or what
Yes,
small talk in the
question about small talk. We all have an idea what that is. It's a cultural comment on somebody who just makes small talk about meaningless things all the time or chatters a lot.
So because you're drawing my attention, our attention to that, I've been looking at that.
That was a small movement. Go ahead.
It seems like there's so much to receive there. There's to receive what is happening outside, what there is to receive the response to that. There's to receive the desire to fix that.
Yes. So you said something, we talked about that earlier. You said something about small talk. One of the reasons that you might hear someone say something and you won't respond, you'll just be quiet, is because what was the word you used? There's nothing in it for me or something like that. There's not.
Just seems like it takes too much effort to put something into words or respond to it.
So, so you may appear very stoic or unfriendly, or people may, because they're chattering about the weather or something like that, and you're just sitting there looking at them, not responding to anything, then they might project on you that you're mean or unfriendly or too businesslike. Don't you get accused of those things? Yes. Interesting area. Then another person who just talks and talks and talks. We all know somebody who just talks, and I'm one of those people. I chatter all the time. I'm also able to be very quiet, not say much at all. But I don't make decisions about it. Go ahead, please. This is a good area to ask. It's a difficult one to give a talk on. I talked about it earlier. I would give a talk on this, but better to have questions, and I invite anyone else's questions. Also, go ahead.
I guess I really want to see this. I see that there is a place where there's ignorance about a particular behavior.
Yes.
Can the search or the desire to see actually be another cover up? Yeah.
It could be, if I'm following what you're curious about, but go ahead, you have more?
I guess, we're drawing attention to the three poisons, ignorance today. And it's in the presumption that it's something to see. So I guess for me, what I'm aware of right now is how close see and fix are one and the same in something like this. When you're teaching,
Yes.
I want to fix.
So I'm not sure of the question there. You want me to continue or not? So being aware of wanting to fix is all you have to do. You don't have to stop fixing. Don't leave for what you see with some kind of a protocol or agenda or standard. Don't return to a standard. Ego loves standards. It loves especially ethical standards. It just loves them because it's so safe there. If you're ethical, you're protected. I'm not against being kind, loving, and respectful to other people, of course, but it needs to come out of the situation. If you live up to a standard, you might actually miss helping somebody that really needs your help because you're busy with your damn standard. Afraid it's what somebody will think about something you might do. It's difficult to see that kind of a teaching or an understanding with the thought process, with the mind, with the fourth skandha. You have to see it with everything. Everything has to see that. And when everything sees everything, ego is terrified of that. If there's still any shrapnel or pieces of ego still laying around, it starts to shake. But you don't have to stop that from shaking. You don't have to get rid of an ego. Just see that it's unreal. And then even the shaking becomes part of the illusion. That's why you may be uncomfortable for a long time, even if you awaken. As a Zen master said in, I think, the 17th century, I have to come close to paraphrase it. I can't remember exactly, and I don't recall his name. I'm sure he doesn't care what I remember. He said, well, now that I'm enlightened, I'm just as miserable as ever. I was like that quote. Something to that. You don't have to get rid of this. You don't have to get rid of anything. You can just be genuine. You'll find there isn't anything you look at that you're separate from. Powerful, but frightening to someone who is terrified of the emptiness of not having a solid, separate self that they're protecting in whatever way they do that. With their activity, with their golf game, whatever it may be, ignorance, works, whatever you use. Might be cooking, might be keeping busy all the time. Anytime you slow down, instead of, you might be able to sit and face a wall, as you're able to do, but to actually just sit and do nothing at all, what happens with you?
There's always something to do.
Something to do. Very, very pragmatic. And that pragmatism is, of course, pragmatic. Somebody needs to mow the lawn, fix the downspout. Somebody needs to do that. But you could also go out and sit on the porch, won't meditate at all, just sit still. Lots of ways to work with that. It doesn't make any difference how long you sit still. It's just important to do that sometimes. Different with each person more.
Bob, how is it so difficult to,
Why is it or how?
why? Why is it so difficult to hear the teaching that it's about awareness and not about fixing, and it's not about changing the ego?
Why it's difficult?
Yeah, why is that so difficult? I don't know how many times I've heard you say that and point to it. And yet it is.
It's hard to know that you're full of yourself and you're self-centered and not want to stop doing it. But so it doesn't mean when the illusion shows up, it doesn't mean that you see through it that, oh, now I don't need to do anything about it. No, you'll still have the need. That also shows up, the desire to fix it. But as simple teaching that I've been saying for a while is don't do anything unless you have to. That gives you a bottom line. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to do it. That brings you into the discursive mind that gives you a little bit of structure in the discursive mind where you can say, I'm not going to do that. I don't have to do it. And that includes meditation. Don't meditate unless you have to. If you're already a meditator, then that works very well. If you've never meditated, then that might be something you might want to check out. Might want to sit still a little bit. Yes.
Shui Wu bowing.
Yes.
What is the difference between realizing your true nature and enlightenment?
So enlightenment is a word that is referring to something. The fruition of the Buddhist path. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is another Sanskrit complete unexcelled enlightenment that goes no further, or awakening, or seeing your true nature. And they're all the same thing, but some have a more conceptual structure to them and will hold more. They're more like a container. You can pour more ideas and judgments into them, like, well, if you're enlightened, then this, and if you're enlightened, then this won't happen, then you'll act this way. An enlightened person wouldn't do this. And this is just, it works culturally to keep the whole thing going. So people who 3 centuries from now, without this continuing to go, even though it's kind of crazy and full of concepts, full of ideas, full of judgment, full of right and wrong, without that, those people would not be exposed to it and would not hear the teaching of the Dharma. And someone who's ready to hear what the Buddha said, the actual message itself, not the words. That's why I say, when you're in book study, which we do several times a week, you do not have to understand what you're studying. You just have to study it. I'm trying to give you a break here. How many people listen? 7 or 8? 10? I'm saying study the material. I'll tell you what to study or recommend what you study. You can study anything you want. There's probably 50 books that I recommend, all about Buddhism. Study the material and be aware that you're not understanding it. This is the path to awakening as I see it. Did I get closer to what you're looking for? Or did I avoid it altogether?
Shui Wu bowing. So are they the same thing?
Yes.
Shui Wu bowing, what is parinirvana?
I don't know. What do you think it is?
Shui Wu bowing, I think it has something to do with death,
Okay.
because we celebrate Kobin's parinirvana.
Oh, that parinirvana. Let's see. What does peri mean? Like sword fighting, that kind of peri? So we're celebrating, he passed away. So every year we come back and acknowledge that there would not be, this teacher would not be here. The Order of Immediate Light, this particular order of Buddhism, which brings together the teaching of two different teachers, two different lineages, the Soto Zen and the Kagyu, Nyingma, and Shambhala lineages of my teacher and of Tibet. So when one of these teachers, either Trungpa Rinpoche or Kobun Chino Roshi, when they passed away, the time they passed away, just a way of acknowledging that, to include that teacher in these forms. We're not sure, not sure, hard to know what that consciousness, once it left the form, whether it came back again, as it does in the Tulku tradition of Tibet, like the Karmapas. It's hard to know how that's functioning in the other traditions like Zen or Chan or the Theravadan schools. So it's like a birthday, like a death day, birthday. You're a doula, aren't you? You're a doula. Don't you celebrate death days? No. Well, I think we all do a little bit. We remember, oh, like my mother passed away on this day. We can remember that, but we don't do much with it, with a celebration or a formal acknowledgement. More about that?
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Sir.
Yoke bowing, question from Ross in Ireland on YouTube.
Yes.
Ross bowing, I don't understand what nothing repeats means. It seems like things do. Is nothing repeats an ultimate teaching? Bowing.
No, it's a relative teaching about ultimacy. Nothing repeats. It looks like we get our security out of repeating. We go into the same house, we wake up in the same bed, but it's never the same. There's always a slight differentiation. Sometimes the differentiation is so slight that it just feels like this is one of the values of doing sitting meditation. But you have to do hundreds and hundreds of hours of it. I'm not saying it wouldn't be helpful to do a couple hours a week. Of course, you do what you need to do. It's your life, it's your karma. Don't do anything I say. Consider it, reflect on it, scratch your head a few times, and you do what you want to do. You cannot make a mistake. There are no mistakes. It's just no mistakes. Nothing happens twice, because several ways of looking at it. One of them is nothing happens. The other one is that everything in the illusion is so very complicated that we differentiate and divide and point out the very thing that we think is happening. And we've totally excluded the fact or the fiction that over in the corner, there was a pigeon sitting in the corner this day, and all the other days that pigeon was not there. All those days all look the same. Pigeon doesn't think so. I'm using a silly image, but it's that kind of that's the way I understand things. So I have to speak out of how I understanding it, how I am understanding it. It's completely crazy. It's a crazy wisdom form of the Buddhas of the three times, Dorje, Trollo, Karma Pakshi. That comes out of a Tibetan tradition, using particular teachers in ancient times that's because of their writings, because of their teaching, saw the true nature, their way of teaching, their students' way of teaching, their teacher's way of teaching, not the same. Nothing happens twice. Even the Karmapas, who are in their 17th iteration, not the same. Karmapakshi, second Karmapa, Rangtung Dorji, third Karmapa, not the same as the 17th. And the 17th has very bad press right now. Don't believe any of that stuff, but don't disbelieve it. Don't do anything with what shows up. You don't have to meditate at all if you just stop picking and choosing. This doesn't mean that you don't see this is an open doorway and that's a window, but you know the doorway is to walk through, the window is to look through. Unless you want to jump out the window. Don't do that. Not good. Are there any questions on the Zoom mobile? Deb?
Deb Bowing, you've used a word a few times in this talk, the word terrified.
Yes.
I'll frame it in how I heard it. As you begin to see through this illusion, you may even be terrified.
Yes.
What does that terrified look like, or what is that terrified or terror? Deb Bowing.
It's just fear. I'm just coming out of what it's looked like for me over the not quite a number of years. If I've gone through periods where I've just been terrified or really afraid of what I was doing or what I was getting into or why I was having all this negativity come up. And here I've been practicing even, it's been a long time, but even 15, 20 years ago. Even now, that kind of emotion can arise, but it doesn't, there's no person there who's feeling that way. There's just the emotion. It's very raw, but I don't care how I feel. It's not a bragging point. Oh, I'm so wonderful. I don't care how I feel. I don't mean that. I'm just saying things are coming and going. I've often said, not often, but occasionally I say to someone else, I don't care how you feel. Because if I care how you feel, then you're going to care how you feel. Then you're going to believe your thoughts, believe the emotions, you'll believe in the illusion, and you go to war with yourself, you go to war with others. And I'm saying, receive. If you want to be compassionate to yourself and to the world, then start out with yourself. Receive the intense anger and so on, or difficulty, or fear, passion, aggression, ignorance. Fear is just passion coming out of ignorance. Receive that. Be genuine. Be who you are. Be the karma that is arising in your mind stream. There is nothing to correct or fix. Don't improve. Improvement is just a cover up.
Thank
Would you
you.
like-
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
An improvement may last for 20, it may last the rest of your life. But this is not the end. Nothing begins. The lives, the bodies begin and die and begin and live for a long time or a short time, and then they pass away. But who you actually are can't come and go. It does not. Realize it. See what it is. You can do it. If you're listening to me, then there's no guarantee, but there's a good chance something here is resonating with you. If you talk to or listen to 15 other teachers, what probably all of you have. It's all over the internet. You can find Dharma teachers everywhere. You can find people that will complain about me and say all kinds of horrible things. I would say don't believe anybody, especially your own thoughts. But you could start by not believing other people's stuff. People keep themselves supported with rumor and with gossip, keep their own positionality. And those people are not terrified because ignorance works. You can actually shut out the terror and be artificially smiling. It reminds me of a movie. In fact, it was Jen Ziegler that recommended this movie that I'm watching. Maybe you've seen it, or I'm starting it. I haven't gotten through it yet, but it's Jen, what is the name of that? I can't remember anything.
Pluribus.
Pluribus, yes. And it's on, well, you can find it. It's out there, but it's really quite a dark humor kind of. So far, I've only watched one episode of it, but well, you should watch it unless you got better things to do. Thank you again for mentioning that, and I've got a couple for you. I'll mention to you that are also quite good. Not that I want you guys to waste your time watching movies. So Jen and I meditate a lot. We don't have to do that, but we get to watch movies. You guys should sit. Is there a further question anywhere, either here or here? If not, we can just close. Yes, Jen, go ahead.
Jen Bowing. Speaking of pluribus, this question arose, or you often say everything, I think you say everything is available in consciousness.
Yes.
Everything's available to you. Is our life, I guess the question is are our thought patterns the only obstruction to experiencing anything and the everything that's available to us?
So the thought patterns are like I don't want to be too simplistic about it, but the thought patterns are like leaves falling from a tree. They're just parts of forms and everything. It's the grasping, the consciousness that that ignores the illusion and grasps at it. So it's the grasping that's the issue. Just like in that movie, you just look for the grasping in the movie. I think you already mentioned a little bit about it in the text I got from you. But just notice anytime you watch anything, look for the grasping, rejecting, and shutting down. Some entertainment is just all about watching. Some entertainment is just all about chaos and so on. So it's quite entertaining because it's not happening to you; it's happening on your television. So, but we're part of all of that. That's why it's so amazing. That's why it's so challenging. Even though this is not happening, it's a movie. But if something horrible is happening to somebody, oh, I can't watch that. It's too much. I can't watch that. I go through that same thing. Just because I'm sitting here talking about what nature of consciousness doesn't mean that if I'm not incredibly affected by what I see on the movie screen or on a stage play or in poems or in writing or in music, or it's just overwhelmed by all of this. Just like we all are in different ways. Further question. Jen, did you have anything else?
I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Jisheen, you can't sit here this all the time and not have a question. She's looking at her notes. You have to turn on your mic.
Are we ignoring all the time who we truly are? Bowing.
Yes, so I'll pick it apart a little bit, but first of all, I say yes, but but time is an illusion. So you've just used the illusion to ask about the illusion, and so I'm going to use the illusion to respond. Yes, but if I go deeper into that, there is no time. There is no one here. There's just consciousness, a very temporary thing to have a personality show up as somebody looking across the room or somebody turning away. It's unreal. You can discover this yourself. If you're interested, I will help you with it. And other people that are practicing here, when I leave, they will be able to help you with that also. There's not a lot of this. There's not much of this kind of help out there. There's a lot of things that parade as this kind of help. I'm not going to complain about anybody because people are teaching a different way than I do, and they have students, and I'm sure those students are being helped by those teachers. But everyone's in a different situation as far as consciousness, as far as the teachings, as far as Buddhism. Lots of different ways to study Buddhism and to teach it. Nothing is correct. Nothing is wrong. Thank you. Thank you.